on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his...
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Listener discretion is advised. The show contains graphic language and depictions of violence. It may not be suitable for all audiences.
We say fuck a lot.
Dail attended a women's college in Lynchburg, Virginia, Randolph-Macon Women's College, where she earned a bachelor's degree in art history, graduating in 1991. And I think that's a really interesting program of study, art history. I'm no artist, but I like art, and I'm fascinated by the history and learning about all of the different artists and the techniques.
Well, yeah, I think that would be very interesting because the marriage of the art and the history, it seems like you would have to be a rather intelligent person to pursue a degree like that.
Well, and art often reflects, it's like a sign of the times and sort of tells a story about what might be specifically happening in that certain period or era.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would be the fascinating part of that study.
Super cool. Well, upon graduating, Dail moved back home to Columbia, where she planned to enroll in graduate school at the University of South Carolina. In the meantime, Dail, never one to slack, began working as a nanny for a neighborhood family, as well as taking some art classes and volunteering at the Columbia Museum of Arts. Her duties included caring for an 8-year-old boy, such as like walking him to and from the bus stop.
Well, Dail doesn't take any time off, does she? She's always motivated to try something new, or always seems to be wanting to do something with her time.
It was Wednesday, September 23rd of 1992, that 23-year-old Dail had accepted an invitation from a male friend to attend U2's concert in Columbia. The Zoo TV tour was in support of their Octon Baby album, which had reinvented the band. The stadium tour was unlike previous shows, as the band staged an elaborate spectacle of sensory overload. There were flashing video screens with news clips, scrolling text, visual effects. U2 was one of the biggest bands at the time, so I imagine it was an awesome show to catch.
Yeah, I think that'd be the time to see U2 live, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're coming off of, like, the Joshua Tree album. We've got the Octon Baby, which had, like, Mysterious Ways and some, like, really good songs, and they were kind of changing their image.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a band that you can just kind of see each album as, like, the band is evolving, and they're, trying out new sounds and that kind of thing. So, would have been a really cool concert. And if you remember in the early 90s, U2 was, like, fucking huge.
They were everywhere.
They were, like, the band, right? Dail and about a dozen friends attended this rock show at Williams-Brice Stadium. Around 11 p.m., the concert ended, so the group headed to 5 Points, an area of Columbia known for its bars and restaurants. It is a popular spot for college students and young people. The group ended up at a nightclub called Jungle Gyms.
Ooh.
And from what I could research, it was a favorite spot for a lot of younger folks back in the day. It had outdoor decks, and it closed sometime around 2012. But it looks like it's been renamed over the years. At one point, it seemed like it had kind of a pirate theme.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I want to go hang out
like
on the ship.
Rum Runners, and then there was like another club that kind of came in after that. So, even if the management changed or the club sort of changed hands, that particular building seemed like it was always some sort of club or night spot for many years.
Yes, my grandfather owned that club for a while. It was called Biscuit Squishers. Yeah, come on down and shake your ass at Biscuit Squishers.
Cool. Yeah, well, your biscuits are pretty flat, so maybe you need a little more like baking powder in there or something.
Damn.
Around 1 a.m., Dail got separated from her friends, and it's unclear to me like what actually transpired, whether they left Dail at the bar or they thought she had gotten a ride home with someone, like maybe her parents. And that seems to be more, just from what I was reading in reports, the latter seems to be the case. But again, I don't exactly have the details, but at some point she gets separated, and it seems like her friends assume she's left.
So she's at Jungle Gyms with her friends.
Yeah.
They're having a big time, having fun. And then all of a sudden they kind of notice that Dale's not there.
Yes.
Okay.
She left the bar once, but then returned a few minutes later, a bouncer would recall. She left again, saying goodbye to the bouncer, and headed toward Hardin and Green Streets. Dale vanished into the night and was never seen again, which is
Huh.
absolutely scary as hell.
It is. These cases are always so scary to me when you just have no idea what happened, why it happened, who did it. I mean, all these questions.
As I mentioned before, one of Dale's duties as a nanny was to walk 8-year-old John Parker to the school bus. It was around 6:15 on Thursday that Dan Dinwiddie, Dale's father, noticed his daughter wasn't in her bedroom. He had gotten up early on that particular morning to let the family dog outside. The dog typically slept in Drew's bedroom. As Dan passed by his daughter's room, he noticed the bedroom light was on and there was a radio playing in the background. But Dale's bed was made, appearing that no one had slept in it. Dan then asked his wife Jean and son Drew if they knew where Dale was, had she planned to spend the night with friends. And Jean told him no. So this troubled Dan. His daughter was very responsible, and if she was ever running late or had a change of plans, Dale always let her parents know her location.
So as soon as he hears that, now he's probably getting worried.
Exactly. This is extremely out of character for her. Dale also knew that no matter where she was or what time of night or early morning it might have been, Dan and Jean would always give her a ride. Like, that was something that they had expressed to her, like, no matter where you are, what time of day or night it is, if you're in a jam, you call us. And I think a lot of parents express that to their kids.
Well, you need to have that, even if you're going to get in trouble. We'll discuss it later, but right then I'll come straight and get you. I won't be screaming at you. I'll get you home safe. If we have to talk about it later, fine. But I think your kid needs to know that you feel that way.
Well, that is something I feel like we have definitely expressed to our children, and we have older kids. But I always say, no matter what, if you're feeling uncomfortable or there's something that comes up, you don't have a ride, your friends leave you, even if you're drinking, like, don't get behind the wheel, you always call me.
Yeah, I mean, I could never
And I would drop everything.
Could never forgive myself if my child stayed in a bad situation just because they were afraid I was going to be mad at them.
Right. And so Dan and Jean, they were those kind of parents. Like, their daughter's safety, top priority. Plus, Dale had always been this very cautious young woman, and she didn't really like being on her own. So they just knew something was not right. And Dale had not spoken to her parents since the night before when she had headed out to this concert with a friend. So they were imaginably very, very fucking worried. It was also completely out of character for Dale to chuck her commitments. She was not the type who would ever just not show up for a job. And they knew Dale wouldn't ditch 8-year-old John. Jean telephoned the Parkers, specifically John's mother, to let her know that Dale was not going to be able to make it that morning to work. Frantic, Dan began calling each of Dale's friends, inquiring about his daughter. However, none of the group had seen Dale since they separated at the bar a few hours earlier. By 8:30 a.m., Dan and Jean called the police to report their daughter missing.
So it didn't take him long.
No.
He noticed
It's
around 6:15.
About 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
They're on it.
and I don't blame him because nothing's adding up.
No, not
You know,
at all.
it's so out of character. She's not there to, not only work her job, but I'm sure she has a connection with the little 8-year-old boy, take care of him. And so at this point, I'm sure they're beside themselves.
And they were family friends as well, the Parkers. So it was like a family that Dale had grown up with. And again, she was not the kind of girl to chuck these responsibilities. And definitely would have shown up. So police began looking into Dale's whereabouts. Unlike a lot of missing persons cases, especially when young people are involved, the law enforcement, sometimes drags their feet. Well, they're technically an adult. They have a right to run off on their own. Maybe they left.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
And they're always like, well, if they've been missing for 48, 72 hours a week, I've heard that before. If they don't show up in a week, let us know. And you're like, I know part of the reason for that is because when people, someone's not really missing and then they report them missing, that may happen quite often. But I mean, it just seems like one of those things. What else are you guys doing?
Well, fortunately, Columbia police jumped into action.
Well, yes, and sometimes they take it serious as soon because they believe the parents and it's out of character, and that can make all the difference sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So from the start, the officers treated Dail as though she was a kidnapping victim. An intense search of 5 Points ensued with a walk through the Jungle Gym's bar. Staff were interviewed, as well as Dail's friends, who had explained that at some point, they'd gotten separated from her. It was discovered during their time at Jungle Gym's bar that Dail had left her purse behind. With no money and no means of getting a ride or hailing a cab, this increased alert for law enforcement. High school and college students who knew Dail began volunteering to hang missing persons posters all over the city and on the university campus. A $50,000 reward was put into place for any information leading to Dail's whereabouts. After a week, a local law firm donated some space in a building to set up a command post for the investigation.
Wow, it seems like it's moving rather quickly.
Definitely. Dan, Jean, and Drew were haunted by Dail's sudden disappearance. The Dinwiddies knew Dail would not run away, and she would certainly contact her parents if given the opportunity. Police traced the route she would have taken on the evening as if she had tried to walk home, but turned up nothing. There was no evidence, no sign of foul play, and little to go on. Around 1:30 a.m., there were still a lot of people in the 5 Points area, especially after this concert. But no one seemed to have seen Dail since she had told the bouncer she couldn't find her friends and left. Nobody seemed to know a thing about Dail. But the Dinwiddies knew that just couldn't be true. Dan Dinwiddie told local press, somewhere somebody knows where Dail is or what happened to her.
Oh my God.
Police speculated that Dail accepted a ride from someone who was familiar to her. This would explain how nobody saw anything peculiar on that evening or heard any kind of commotion. Like they never heard a woman screaming, asking for help, never saw any kind of commotion, someone trying to shuffle her into a car.
Right. Either they were familiar to her or she had met them long enough to feel comfortable willingly going with them without making a fuss.
Over the years, police have exhausted all efforts to find Dail Dinwiddie. A number of psychics claiming to have information over the years had law enforcement dredging a pond in lower Richland County, where they did happen to find a sunken car.
Nice.
But nobody. No Dail there, obviously. Ground-penetrating radar was used to search various locations and properties, turning up bones that later revealed, basically proved to be a deer.
Oh, so they found a car in the pond and the carcass of a deer.
Yes. The flooring was torn up in a 5 Points home after there were reports of a foul odor. I mean, again, these officers are doing everything they can. They're even willing to go in and dig up a floor in a home to investigate.
So it's almost like any lead they get, they're going to truly investigate it.
Police searched drainage pipes and ditches around the area. Dan and Jean appeared on an episode of Good Morning America. 2 weeks after her disappearance, U2 flashed her face on a video screen at their concert, hoping to draw attention to the young woman's disappearance.
Damn.
In the years that followed, DNA hair strands from Dail's brush were added to a database that compared Jane Doe's. Probably something like NamUs, Missing Persons Database, something like that. Kathleen Parker was a nationally syndicated columnist, and she was a friend of the Dinwiddies. She also wrote about this case because Dail had been her nanny. It was her youngest son, John, that Dail was babysitting.
Wow. So this has gotten widespread attention over the years, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
In 1997, Jean told the media, I run to the mailbox every day to see if there's a letter or there's a phone call. I think maybe it's Dail calling just to hear my voice or see if I'm all right.
And that's the saddest part when someone goes missing under these circumstances.
Incredibly sad.
You just never know.
So over the years, police have looked into over 1,000 tips, an entire filing cabinet plus 3 boxes of investigative records are at the Columbia Police Department, all relating to Dale's case. Investigators have never given up hope, even traveling as far as Las Vegas and Minnesota to interview criminals who claim to have some information about Dale.
Damn, that's a lot of information they've compiled on her case.
Drew Dinwiddie was just 16 when his sister disappeared, and though there was a 7-year age gap between the pair, they had begun developing a more mature, adult level relationship just before she vanished in September of 1992. Drew had always been that pesky younger brother to Dale, but as he had gotten older, she started seeing him as an equal and a companion, like someone she could talk to. So it was especially hard for him.
Oh, I'm sure. I could imagine.
After Dale's disappearance, the Dinwiddies were insistent that Drew carry a pager and a cell phone, but his parents learned that the best way to cope with their pain was by allowing Drew to live his own life and not hinder him or be overprotective.
Well, I'm sure surviving parents who've lost a child, literally, it would be hard to not overcompensate with your other child or children. You know, just wanting to be with them all the time just out of fear, though very statistically improbable, you know, for something to happen to them as well. But that'd be your natural reaction.
In 2005, the family debated moving from their 2-story home to a 1-story in the same Forest Hills neighborhood. They decided to make the move, but were worried that if Dale returned to the old house, she wouldn't know where to find her family. That's just so sad.
Damn.
It really broke my heart to read about her case and what her parents have been through. Drew told the State magazine that not having any answers has been worse than anything. During the investigation, police looked into a possible suspect. Ronaldo Javier, known as Jay, Rivera, was a former Navy pilot who had worked for the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff in Washington, D.C. In 1992, Rivera was a student at University of South Carolina studying office administration. On July 17th of 1999, a 17-year-old woman named Melissa Dingus vanished from Aiken County, South Carolina. Rivera was employed with Firestone Tire and Rubber Plant in Aiken at that time. Witnesses had seen Melissa with an older male who had dark hair just before her disappearance. It wasn't until October of 2000 that her remains were found near Harlem, Georgia, in some woods off I-20.
Oh my gosh.
Now, a few months later, in December, a 17-year-old named Tiffany Charisse Wilson was shopping at a Winn-Dixie grocery store in North Augusta. She had her 2-month-old daughter, Caitlin, with her. Her car was found in the parking lot, but there was no sign of this young mother. 3 days after the disappearance, Caitlin was found in her baby carrier at a Georgia Welcome Center just across the state line.
The baby was left?
Yeah, just in her little, I'm assuming they said baby carrier, but I'm assuming like a car seat.
Yeah.
That is just sitting like right in front of the doors as you walk into a welcome center.
Oh my God.
Someone had just like left this baby.
Yeah, that's wild.
Authorities searched I-20 and Highway 25 with no luck. It was a few weeks later, on December 30th, that hunters found the body of a young woman in Graniteville. It was a heavily wooded area, like just a very out-of-the-way kind of place. The woman had been raped, her hands tied behind her back, and she had a stab wound also in her back. Authorities suspected this had likely been done in the presence of her infant daughter.
Yeah, I mean, that's likely.
18-year-old Tabitha Bosdell of Augusta, Georgia, disappeared under similar circumstances. She was dropped off by family members at a Huddle House restaurant where she planned to apply for a part-time job. Tabitha then, she also worked as a telemarketer, so she departed this Huddle House job walking to the other job. So after applied, then she left. Rivera spotted the woman and persuaded her to get into his car for a ride. He took her to a secluded area where a fierce struggle took place. He then sodomized, raped, and strangled the woman. Rivera disposed of her body in the woods off I-20, tossing her clothes out like along the interstate as he drove away from dumping her body.
So this Rivera, Jay, as they refer to him, he is killing other women.
Yes.
Multiple women.
Yeah, and we're going to get more into that here in a minute.
Wow.
So
What a
Bosdell
monster.
was so badly decomposed that they had to use dental records to identify her. In September of 2000, a 21-year-old Marine named Marie Glista was stationed at Fort Gordon. Her commanding officer realized she had not reported for duty that morning when her husband called from Kuwait asking about her. Like, he'd been unable to reach her via long-distance phone call.
And they can't find her.
And was concerned. So 2 Army officers, including her CO, went to her residence, and they found her husband's car in the driveway. There was a bag of groceries placed in the front seat. The curtains were drawn inside, and it appeared no one was home. So the men then called police, who entered the home and found Glista lying in a prone position at the foot of her bed. She was nude, wearing only a bra, which was crudely kind of curled up around her shoulders. Her neck and wrists had been wrapped in white medical tape. Glista wasn't dead, though, but she suffered irreversible brain damage. She ended up dying a few days later, having been brutally raped, beaten, and sodomized as well.
Jesus.
In early October of 2000, Rivera met 18-year-old Chrysalie Barton at the parking lot of a Huddle house in North Augusta. So he tells her he's a photographer, offering to take modeling photos of this young woman. She at first, rejected his offer and thought it was weird. Like, who are you approaching me to take photos? Like, what?
Well, and that's so cliche.
But he was super persistent and just kind of kept on and on until she finally agreed and invited him back to her stepdad's apartment, where he attacked her with a knife. He raped her, then stabbed the woman 3 times in the throat with this knife. He left the apartment, came back, and found out she wasn't dead, and that's when he tried to strangle her. Now, she was able to contact police and describe Rivera pretty accurately. And I have to say, the police sketch looks just like him.
Wow.
So she remembered a lot of detail about his face.
Man, it's amazing that she survived multiple brutal attempts on her life.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, this poor woman, she just went through hell with this guy.
And she's so strong. She's like, I'm going to get this fucking guy.
Good for her.
Yeah.
The news released the description of Barton's attacker along with this police sketch. His co-worker and sister-in-law quickly contacted law enforcement, stating that Rivera fit the description of this perpetrator.
Wow, his own family members.
Eventually, he was tracked down to a South Carolina motel where he was hiding out. Before his arrest, Rivera attempted suicide by slashing his wrists. He was transported to a hospital, later arrested. During interviews with law enforcement, he admitted to raping and murdering both Glista and Bosdell, giving directions to the location of Bosdell's remains. He was charged with murdering 4 women in total. However, law enforcement have suspected him in as many as 15 unsolved murders in South Carolina and Georgia.
My God.
Investigators were never able to link him to Dail's disappearance, but it certainly seemed to fit his MO, and other victims had a very similar appearance. When I looked at photos of the other victims, like Tiffany Wilson, they have there's striking similarities between his victims and Dail Dinwiddie. What am I saying? Dail Dial. It's crazy.
Well, you have Dail getting separated from her friends, and it sounded like a very busy club, and kind of being, maybe I'm ready to go. Then she realizes I don't have my purse, but she's already outside kind of walking. And so she has no way to get a cab or, contact anyone. And here comes this guy whose whole MO is approaching women, getting them to get into his car no matter what. And so maybe she even don't know this guy, and he just comes up out of nowhere. Hey, do you need a ride? And she's in a circumstances where she thinks maybe, yeah, I do need a ride. Even though I'm going to maybe do something I'm not comfortable with or is outside of my normal, what I would do. But yeah, I do need a ride, and gets in a car with this monster. That very well could have happened.
Well, there's also another missing South Carolina woman. She disappeared in 1999, and she looks strikingly similar to Dail. I mean, they could be sisters, honestly.
Well, I mean, that right there, if some of his victims look very similar to Dale. You know, these guys typically have a type.
Blonde hair, brown eyes, beautiful big smile, cute dimples. Her name was Paula Merchant. And Rivera was also a suspect in her disappearance. So Merchant departed from her home in Forest Acres, South Carolina in January of 1999 around 6:30 p.m. This was on January 3rd. She was planning to go to a church meeting at LeGrand Road, but she never arrived at the church and has never been seen since. She was driving a 1989 Nissan Sentra at the time of her disappearance, and the car was found abandoned and burned on January 4th around midnight, which was just a few hours after she had left home. Now, this burned vehicle was located in the 2000 block of Commerce Drive in Columbia, but there has been no sign of her since, and there were no real clues at the scene.
Oh my God.
Now, authorities are uncertain if Ronaldo Javier Rivera is connected to her case, but again, he was charged with those 4 murders in and around, South Carolina and Georgia, and he was attending the University of South Carolina in the early 90s, and he was very familiar with both areas where Merchant and Dail Dinwiddie disappeared.
Well, I mean, can't know for sure, but it seems, like there's a strong likelihood that this man may have been involved with these 2 women who look very similar to each other, right?
Yes.
And kind of, yeah. So, I mean, what do you say?
I think there's a decent chance that he was involved. I mean, I'm telling you, Dylan, these girls, they all look very similar.
I mean, that can just be a
There are
coincidence.
just striking similarities between the victims.
But when you talk about 2 girls who look like they could be sisters, both, taken and disappeared, never seen again. I mean,
and you have a predator in that area who seems to be preying on that type of young woman.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Same
not
age.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
I think it's quite possible he could be involved in hell, there's no telling how many missing girls this guy's involved. He's a straight up monster.
Yeah, he totally is. In March of 2019, a 21-year-old woman named Samantha Josephson ordered an Uber to pick her up outside a bar in 5 Points, that same area of Columbia, and it was near the same area where Dale was last seen. So the following morning, her roommates contacted police when discovering that she hadn't made it to their apartment. Surveillance footage was checked, and it showed the young woman climb into a dark-colored Chevy Impala, which pulled up outside the bar.
Dude, this is not that long ago, right?
2019.
Yeah, I so remember this case. And I remember how people were being so mean about this girl.
Victim blaming.
Oh, she's stupid. She's this. That wasn't her driver. She should have done this. Blah. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah.
She could have had some drinks. I know there's plenty of times I come out of a bar, if I'd called for a ride, I would just, any door open, I might have fell in that sucker. You know what I mean? But they were totally
Yes, I've seen you fall into several things, including some doors.
including some suckers. No, but they were, that's one thing that stands out about that case is they were being so shitty. And so what she should have done and didn't do. Can we just not look at how fucking horrible this is? Just getting in the wrong car by accident shouldn't.
It was a simple mistake.
Yeah.
That many of us could and maybe have made.
Anybody could make that mistake.
Hell, I know people sober who are in the grocery store parking lot and try to get in a car that's not theirs.
I've done that.
Because it looks sort of similar to their car.
Yeah,
I've had friends that are like telling me these stories. So.
And they're not paying attention like, that good.
Right, exactly. Well, Samantha appeared to be alone and she was using her cell phone. The sidewalk in front of the bar was super crowded as Samantha hops into the backseat of this Impala. Phone records showed Samantha had ordered a car from this popular ride service around 2 a.m., but the car she got into was not an Uber. The same day, police spotted the Impala driving in the same area. Upon pulling over the driver, they learned he was 24-year-old Nathaniel Rowland. Later that day, turkey hunters in the town of New Zion, which is about 65 miles away, give or take, from where Samantha went missing, they found her remains. The body was less than 2 miles from Rowland's home. The woman had, oh my gosh, this is horrific, Dylan. She had been stabbed like 90 times. Like,
What the
total
hell?
overkill.
Wait, it was less than 2 miles away from the man who was driving the Impala's home?
Yeah.
But yet 60 some miles away from where she was taken.
Yes.
So he drove outside of his area to look for a victim. That's what it
Seemingly.
sounds like.
Well, the woman had been stabbed more than 30 times. I'm sorry, more than 90 times. I don't know where I got 30 from. I feel like I'm very dyslexic today. Like I was like Dail Dial because it was like I was seeing her name backwards in my brain. I don't know. And then somehow this 30 becomes 90, becomes 30. I don't know. I'm having problems, y'all. I'm going to blame it on we went to a show last night and I'm probably still recovering from that.
Yes.
I might still be slightly intoxicated. I don't know.
It's true.
Well, this poor girl had numerous wounds to her face, her neck, chest, just all over the upper body. She was so badly mutilated, Dylan, that her parents couldn't identify her, and DNA was used to positively confirm that it was Samantha.
Jesus. To know a loved one's been done like this, treated like a piece of
I
meat.
don't even think I could go in to confirm my children's bodies. I would have to send someone else in. I just don't think I could see my kid in that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to think about that.
I don't think I could
but
ever. That could be my last memory of my child.
Let alone tore up like that. I mean, Jesus. I mean, yeah.
It's
You know,
just,
that
it's
just should
terrible.
just never, no parent should ever have to go through that.
No way.
And it's one thing if it's some freak accident or a car wreck or some shit like that, but just to notice the intentional work of another human being, and it's done to your loved one. I don't know.
So heartbreaking for her family. Blood evidence found in the Impala was collected. Investigators found that the child safety locks were engaged, leading them to believe that Samantha had been locked in this car against her will. There was a footprint found in one of the back windows showing that she had tried to kick her way out of the car.
So she pops in the car. It probably doesn't take her long to realize this sitting in a fucking Uber, right?
Yep.
And because you do get a picture of your driver and all that. So, but she can't operate the latches, it seems. And then she may have been actually kicking the windows. So now she's terrified. Like, what the hell is going on? And the first thing you're going to say is, hey, whoa, pull over, let me out, right? That's going to be, who are you, or whatever. I mean, if the person's like funny about it, like, you got my car, you thought it was a fucking cab, right? That'd be, oh, okay, it's goofy. But I'm going to assume this guy was not, his whole aura and energy was nothing cute or whimsical. He's a fucking monster.
He had sinister on his brain.
Exactly.
Sure. Surveillance video also showed Nathaniel attempting to use Samantha's debit card at 2 different locations, and he had attempted to unlock her cell phone. Like they could tell from records he had been typing in like a series of incorrect PIN numbers. Bloody clothes and the murder weapon, which was described as like a multi-tool of sorts, were found at his home where he had been hours after the murder. There were bloody sheets, cleaning wipes, gloves, and other items that were found in a trash can behind his girlfriend's house.
Jesus, this guy's stupid on top of being an asshole.
His girlfriend had gotten blood on her shoe after riding in the car. Probably just hours after Samantha was killed.
So it's just a mess.
And when she asked him, what is this? He basically was like, you need to mind your own business.
What's strawberry jam?
Cell phone towers were able to place Nathaniel and Samantha's cell phones in the same locations at the same time. So that's what I think a lot of these murderers nowadays don't realize is you've got a fucking tracking device on you. And if you're dumb enough to commit a murder and you've got a cell phone in your pocket, they can totally trace your steps.
Yeah. Well, what you got to do is you got to leave your cell phone in another location, a normal location.
Well, stop giving people tips.
And then you have someone operate it there. You do have them send out a text or two, which I don't even know if that would work nowadays because your camera may be recording the whole time. They may be able to pull up and see who's holding the fucking thing, for all I know.
Yeah, we don't know. Well, after his arrest, get this, Rowland's mother, older brother, and basketball coach spoke on his behalf, as character witnesses, saying what a kind, caring young man he was, and he was just incapable of such a violent crime.
So the cops planted all this stuff, guys?
Yeah.
The bloody materials behind his girlfriend's house, the blood in his car, the just he didn't try at all to cover his tracks.
His
They put
mother
the
was in
body.
serious denial.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can't say anything, I guess, negative about this woman because one, who wants to believe that their child is capable of being such a monster? And she's equally as devastated.
Well, it's true. Both families would be devastated by this event.
But damn, woman, there's like an overwhelming amount of evidence
And
here.
I could imagine at first being like, "What? No, no way! Not my child." But in the face of just so much evidence, I mean, I think I quickly would have to be like, "Yeah, well, shit. Did my child do this? Right?"
Yeah.
And if I ever felt that they did, there's enough evidence to make me. Then I love you, but at the same time,
Well, and I think about from one mother to another or from one parent to another, how you can look at this poor woman, Mrs. Josephson, and know that her daughter's been taken in this exceptionally horrific way. So badly mutilated that they couldn't even identify the poor girl. And yes, you're a mother too, and you're feeling this way about your child, but how could you look at this woman and still defend your son? I don't know. I just think that that's a lot.
in the face of so much evidence,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be. I couldn't do that.
On July 27th of 2021, after a 6-day trial, Rowland was found guilty of murder. Witnesses, including forensic specialists and a man who said that Rowland tried to sell him an iPhone 7 Plus belonging to the victim, testified. A woman, Maria Howard, she was actually Rowland's girlfriend, testified to watching Rowland clean a knife type of tool in front of her home after the murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. The Josephsons established the What's My Name Foundation, which works to educate people about ride-sharing safety. In June of 2019, a ride-sharing safety act was signed into South Carolina law named after Samantha. The act requires ride-share drivers display their license plate numbers in front of the vehicle, and it imposes heavy fines and prison time on those who misrepresent themselves as authorized transportation drivers.
Wow.
Other states, including North Carolina and New Jersey, have proposed and implemented similar laws. In May of 2019, USC awarded Samantha a can never say that, a posthumous,
Post Thomas.
sure,
Posthumous.
Why
Oh
would
my God.
I know.
I was
I
like,
told you my brain's not working today, bro. And I love hummus, so maybe that's why I was
it's
thinking.
post Thomas. You got the little feta bread and
You
stuff.
know what I mean.
Why is it pita bread?
Look, you say dumb shit all the time, okay? I'm allowed to say some dumb shit here and there.
Post Thomas.
Yeah, okay. I know you're in your car laughing at me right now, guys. It's fine. A political science degree, basically, at what would have been her graduation ceremony.
Oh, and so posthumous means after the fact?
Yes.
Okay.
So after she's passed. Posthumous. See, I don't know.
See, I knew the word. I
Why
didn't even know what the fuck it
My
meant.
brain is not working today. I'm like stumbling. Can't get it together.
Well, we did good to get home.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. We were good.
I was not because I was like trying to get my sleep on.
I was good.
There are eerily similar similarities between the Dail case as well as Samantha's cases. Both were beautiful, intelligent young women brimming with possibilities, both about to go out and spread their wings, and then both go missing from this exact same area of town.
Would you live in the world of the Minority Report, Philip K. Dick's world, where they through clairvoyance or something to that effect see crime before it happens and come get you and stop you? If that system was infallible, would you live in that world? I would.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Because I would want somebody to come get this piece of shit. I'd want somebody to come get Jay or Romero, whatever his fucking name was, that piece of shit monsters who were just looking for victims. They go around literally hunting until they see the just right person and the just the right circumstances where they can take them and fucking torture them, rape them, and murder them. I would live in that world as long as the system's infallible and always right, which I don't think could ever exist.
Well, no.
Even in his version of this world, people were manipulating the system.
Though Dale's case has been unsolved for 29 years, her family has not given up hope. Law enforcement officials in Colombia are also not giving up their search for Dail Dinwiddie.
I must say, with all that information they have compiled on her, I mean, if the cold case investigators there ever go back and dig in, they got plenty of stuff to work.
Well, that's the thing, Dylan. This has been a cold case, but like her family has done a really great job of keeping her name in the spotlight and in the news and contacting the press and the police department as well. I mean, every couple of years they go back and try to re-examine the case and they get it published in the media and are still trying to keep her case and her name out there, which I think is great. It's just, it's wonderful that they are able to do this. I wish that more police departments and law enforcement agencies were able to do that with so many more victims.
See, that's when like that law they passed about the ride sharing, and it's happening by state. There's some common sense things I think should come from the federal level, and just be for all the country. We're not going to wait for each and every, because this is common sense safety, people. Then there's other things I think the federal government, shouldn't come from the federal level and should be more of a local matter.
Well, my
But
thing is,
something,
why are these ride sharing companies, and maybe they do, I've never noticed, but why are there not like placards or stickers, those magnetic stickers for the door, or something identifying this as an Uber? I mean, I know that cars could still probably access those, even if they had, ulterior motives.
look,
But at least it would help if you knew I'm getting picked up by like a red Kia Soul, and
right.
here's a red Kia Soul with a big Uber sticker in the window, or some kind of identifying mark on the vehicle.
I think I think her case there in 2019 actually caused a bit of a stir nationwide outside of the area because everyone, it went national. And I think some of these things have been addressed since then because as far as I know, I don't use Uber. But now they like send you a picture of your driver, a description of the car, blah, blah, blah. And I think, and this could have very well been the case that kind of brought that to everyone's attention, including the people at Uber, because that just seems common sense to me, right? That's the whole thing with a cab back in the day.
Being
Bright yellow with all the, lights and such on them. You couldn't mistake it and get into another car. You might get in the wrong cab, but you're in a fucking cab.
Well, there's always the risk of encountering these shitbirds
Well, any system can be
who have bad intentions.
it could be infiltrated. But let's say that that second man you was talking about there, he was a dumbass. He was a monster, but he was an
Rowland,
idiot.
yeah.
So he's not going to hack the system and put his picture in there. And I mean, I don't think so. That would certainly at least have a baseline of protection for people through just some simple things. So yeah, I think just common sense safety protocols should be a national thing. I don't think we should have to worry about going through each state's legislation.
Well, with Samantha Josephson's murder, it makes me wonder, because you seem to conclude that perhaps he was like a predator on the prowl looking for someone. But it makes me wonder if it just happened to be the crime of opportunity. Like maybe he didn't set out that evening to commit a crime, but just so happened to have this young woman, attractive, maybe intoxicated, climbing into the car unknowingly, and then he's like a spider with a fly in his web. You know what I mean?
Well, that's quite possible, but I mean he is quite a ways from home in an area that's where clubs are letting out and there's people. So maybe this is something he's done before. Maybe he was just over there, hanging out because I guess asshole murderers do just hang out sometimes and have hobbies too besides killing people. So I guess we'll never know the answer to that. But I mean, it could just been just really, really bad luck on her part that she happened to get into the wrong car and it happened to the driver was a piece of shit who would harm her, kill her
It's so sad.
with a fucking multi-tool. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, that's when I read, because I kept assuming it was like
Well, it seems like a
some
weapon
kind
of opportunity.
big knife, but a multi-tool, and I imagine that knife
No.
can't be that sharp.
No,
right?
it's dull, it's gnarly, it's chipped up. It's you abuse those. I think everybody's seen them and they like fold out into pliers, and I'm guessing, and you got the little screwdriver and the little knives that fold out the other end of the handle. No, it's almost like when you were describing
It's like a Swiss Army knife
well
or
the little
something.
pocket knife
Yeah,
in
in
our
the
last
Janice Buttram case.
in our last story, just being stabbed over and over with this little dull nasty blade. It's just it gives me nightmares. It really does. And just to know someone could do this to anyone, let alone some young lady. It's just I just don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't either. And we normally don't present cases where there's not a conclusion. I mean, we don't even have a body for Dale. We don't know what happened to her. But I was just so moved by her story and her parents and what they've done to try to keep her name in the news, and that they've just never given up hope. And then once I sort of dug into the case, just I thought it was interesting, I started seeing these other connections. Like, we've got multiple young women missing from this area, very similar situations, and some of them have a conclusion and some of them don't. And it's so sad.
Now, was this story a patron suggestion?
No, actually, this was one I found on my own, Dylan.
You done found it by
I
yourself?
done found it.
Okay, well, thank you, Heather, for the great work as usual. And I would like to thank our patrons who've gave us so many great suggestions over the last multiple
We have
weeks.
so many Patreon suggestions, some excellent cases that we will be diving into. Don't forget, we have our live show coming up here very soon, Dylan, September 24th at the Lazy Hiker in Sylva, North Carolina. We still have tickets available for that, though they seem like they're selling every day, so I'm not sure how many we have left. But if you want to come to the live show, you got to get those tickets. brownpapertickets.com. You can also find a link in our bio on Instagram, and there is an event on Facebook where you can get more information about tickets.
I can't wait to see you.
It's going to be really fun, Dylan.
It's going to be a blast. We can't wait to meet some fans and friends and just have a good night.
We have
Good.
a really solid local case to cover. Very, very local since we'll be in Sylva, North Carolina. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh my gosh.
Big case there.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Big case in the area. So if you are a local and you love the podcast, you got to come to the live show. It's going to be super fun.
Yes, and don't forget a very easy way to support the podcast. Just hit that subscribe button. You know you're going to listen anyway. Hit that subscribe button on any listener you're on, and it really helps us out, keeps us visible. And thank you for we've lately gotten some great 5-star reviews. Another way you can show your support for Mountain Murders. We appreciate everyone's kind words.
We even got a great 5-star review, I believe it was yesterday, from someone in Las Vegas.
Yes.
We just love seeing where you're from. We know we've got listeners all over, Dylan. We've got listeners right now in Malta and Slovenia.
Yes, rocking it, baby.
That is so cool.
Yes, and if you'd like to find out more about my big old head, you can hit us up at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com with further comments.
About your big head?
My big old head, I'll give more information. I'll give actual sizes,
You should measure it.
a
for them.
circumference, and length of my big face.
Okay, cool. Appreciate that, Dylan.
I feel like people need to know more about my big old dumb fish head at this point.
We will be back on Wednesday with a brand new Offbeat. Until then, you guys stay safe, vigilant, and I don't know what, Dylan. Don't be a shitbird.
Just be happy.
Just be happy. Okay.